Okay, welcome everybody. What we are going to cover this week is our first week in our Never Again 3-week assessment, which is really going to cover all of the things we think that you need to be doing right now to make sure that your business is resilient and ready to, handle moving forward into 2022 and beyond. So some of this will be looking backwards over the last 18 months, but all with the goal of really understanding where your business is today, understanding what has changed, what hasn't changed, and then setting targets for the future. Because wherever we are, there's always going to be uncertainty. So we can't just wait for the uncertainty to be over, although we wish that it would. We really have to assess now to make sure that we understand and we're, pivoting and doing everything that we can so we're running our business efficiently and effectively moving forward. Okay, so week one. So the focus of this course is cash flow, although we're going to be covering a lot of your operations as well, right? But the point of it being cash flow related is this is sort of a weird place to be, right? Because as crazy as things are, and the fact that you can't find staff, and the fact that your cost of goods are skyrocketing, you also probably have more cash in your bank account than you maybe have ever had for your business, right? Just because of all the government programs and PPP, and we have employee retention tax credits coming in. So all of those reasons you're in this great cash position, but our P&Ls don't look so great, right? Because our margins have shrunk and there's all this, increase in costs and, maybe some uncertainty in our customers as well, right? So for that reason, the focus on cash flow is even with all of that money, we can't plan what we're going to do with that money until we know where we are today. And knowing where we are today operationally will create a situation where we have free cash flow, but we can't have free cash flow if our business isn't break even. So that's why we're starting with cash flow. So some of this will be operations, P&Ls, all of that, but all of the time really focused on how do I know if I have enough money, right? How do I know that I can go ahead and do some of the things that I've been talking about or thinking about? Well, it starts with knowing my cash balance and knowing where I am. So the first step this week is going to be assessing where we are today. So really taking a hard look at where business is, where it's been for the last 18 months, so that we can, in week 2, build a cash forecast for the rest of this year, which we'll be looking forward, kind of taking what we learned and applying it to the future. And then week 3 will be a really good daily check of our cash flow, which will tie back to everything that we're doing. So by the end of the 3 weeks, we have a tool that's only going to take us 15 minutes at the most. It may be 5 or 10 minutes every day to know that we're in line with our forecast, so that should we not be in line, we can make a change today, right? So we're not just waiting and sitting around for next month or 6 months from now and going, where did the cash go? Because I can tell you, I've had conversations like that, right? I've sat down with people who say, oh my gosh, I received $100,000 in PPP and I only have 40,000 in my account. So where did it go, right? And that's what we're going to ask the question today, for better or worse, right? Some of this is going to be painful. It's not going to be fun to look backwards, but we have to, right? Because we have to know what happened in the last 18 months so we can know where our business really is today. Okay, so key question is, what is our operating cash flow today, right? If we took away the government program, we took away the safety net, what do we earn in our business today, this week, this month, right? Including all of those crazy cost of goods spikes and labor and all of that. What are we really earning in our business? And how have the government programs, factored into the performance in our business in the last 18 months, right? So really what we're going to do is take a look at, generally where we've been, maybe just for the last 3 months as a starting point, right? But then saying, okay, if this is my example and I earned $1,500 in May and June and then July, okay, so I earned $4,500, in the last 3 months, but, I have $101,000 in my bank account as of May 1st. The big question is, obviously, is the $4,500 enough to sustain myself, right? With these margins, maybe that $1,500 a month was, $4,000 a month 6 months ago, but cost of goods have gone up, labor's gone up, and now it's kind of dwindling to 1,500. First question is, forget the money that you have in your bank account, right? Forget that it exists. Is the 4,500 over 3 months enough? Does the 4,500 include owner's salary? Are there other things that you kind of build in for lifestyle expenses, your car expense, your, cell phone, things like that? So the 4,500 is enough, or is it not enough? And we really need to dig in operationally to figure out, how do we get you back to 4,000 a month, or 5,000 a month? Because I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, well, pre-COVID, I made, 8,000 a month out of this business, but now I don't. Well, the only reason you don't today is because we haven't adjusted the business model to the price increases, right? Because if you look at the chains, that's what they do, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, they're going to make their 10 to 15% bottom line. They have to, right? But a lot of times as an independent, we don't want to, or we're waiting, or we're going to see, and all of a sudden you're costing yourself money, right? Because this business, as much as we love our customers and we don't want to make them pay more for chicken wings, if we're paying more for chicken wings, then we have to make them pay more for chicken wings, right? Because that's how our business is going to survive, right? It doesn't make sense for us to wait and see 6 months, not wanting to upset our customer, and then we're too far gone, right? We need to make sure the business makes sense today, forgetting the government cash, because that government cash, that's your business's nest egg, right? That's stuff that you want to make sure you do the most you can with that money, right? We don't just want to bleed through it. And so a year from now, all of a sudden we're back to 20,000 in an account and we're stressed, right? This is where we want to first make sure whatever we made in the last 3 months, pull your P&L for, May, June, July. Is that enough? Is that okay? Is that what it used to be? Is it better than it used to be? Because some people are seeing it actually is better, right? You have no staff, so your bottom line looks great, even though you're spending more on cost of goods. So there may be that too, right? But we want to see last 3 months where we are. And then the second part is our cash, right? How did we get here? Did we earn the money in our bank account? Or is this like a leftover of PPP and some of it's ours and some of it's the government? That's really what we want to assess. Okay, so it's very important that we look at our cash balance today to really look at what has happened in the last 15 months. So since the beginning of COVID, what amounts of money has your business received? And then what is the cash balance today? So if I'm sitting here at 101,000 in cash as of, August 1st, and that may make sense, right? Just as a side note, to start with, your last bank statement, rather than like a daily balance that's sort of fluctuating on the online, maybe take your last bank statement ending balance as a place to start. So then what we're going to do is we're going to subtract out the government money that you have received. So if you received PPP round 2, we're going to take that out. We'll take round 1 out. We received an ERTC check. So all of that gets subtracted from the cash balance that I'm sitting at today. Because in an ideal world, and again, this is not something where we're going to get frustrated, because you guys went through a crazy last 15 months. So chances are we've spent some of the money, and we should have, right? That's okay. But what we need to understand is why, right? Did I intentionally pay my staff when I was closed because of PPP? Or is it that my margin has shrunk and I wasn't as aware of that, or things happened last year? And that's what we're trying to find out, right? Why did we have a gap in our operating? Maybe it was a decision, maybe it was the uncertainty, but either way, right, we all know that last fourth quarter of 2020, it was tremendous uncertainty, right? The Northeast got shut down 3 weeks before the holidays. So that's where we need to be prepared for this year. Maybe that happens again. If it does, what did I learn from that last year? That's where we're trying to figure this out, right? So again, starting with my beginning balance, I'm going to take out all the money I received, which means that I did have a negative in my operating performance over the last 15 months. Now, that's okay, right? If I look at this, trend line, I mean, yeah, October through January and February were terrible, right? That's why they did another PPP. That's fine. This is not surprising, right? But I really want to look at this year, right? Does it look like last year where I see like, okay, I had a little bit of money going in because it was before COVID and things were growing and no one really even paid attention to cash flow because customers would come in and I'd pay my bills and everything was fine. Then I got shut down, which is how I got to zero, right? Because we all know what April 2020 felt like. I mean, there's no money, there's no business, and nobody knows if the government's actually going to be able to get money into the account. But then, oh, look, I got my VPP, right? Now I'm better, things are good. Oh, but wait, the 2 weeks to slow the spread actually is not 2 weeks to slow the spread. And now I have a cash decline, right? Which is fine. I mean, PPP worked exactly how it should have, right? I got the money in the account. It helped me get through a crazy time period, keeping my staff. I was able to keep my management team. I mean, I've had some clients who say, the PPP was first and then they made all these decisions, that it was an educated decision to keep my management team because you know how hard it is to build a management team, right? And it was well worth spending my PPP money. So then, all the way to January, things are still not great with COVID. People still aren't coming around. There's another PPP. But if I look at this from, January or February 2021 and on, now I see that things are starting to stabilize, right? And it's hopeful when I look at June to July because my cash actually went up without a government program, right? That might mean that I actually was cash flow positive in my operations. But seeing this would help me see, okay, I really have been sustainable with round 2 of PPP where I wasn't with round 1, right? Round 2 of PPP really has given me a nest egg, right? I got $80,000 from round 2 and I'm starting August 1st at 101. So that would tell me, okay, I have had some cash that I've earned and that's a good thing. But this is what we really want to look at because it helps us understand, where we are and what our cash flow is currently doing right now. And we're going to cover how you can create this in a graph going forward. Okay. So to do all that, right, we first need to build what I call our data sheet. So we need to have some information from the past about your business in order to understand where we are today and where we're going. So this is going to work in line with what we do next week as well. I'm going to post the link to the Google Sheet. What you're going to do is copy and paste it into your own, make it your own, and you can go ahead and make any changes, adjust it to you. But the first page that we're going to look at is this data sheet. And the data sheet is going to set up 3 key pieces of information for us. The first one is our sales. We really need to know our sales trends over the last 2 to 3 years, right? So we want to look at 2020, but we also want to look at 2019 and 2018 if we can. We're going to do the same thing for our labor and our cost of goods. And you will see that this will help us in building that forecast because we will see where we were, where we are, and then where do we think that we are going. Okay, so the forecast tool, when you see it in the Google Sheet, again, we're just going to go to the data sheet right now. That's what we need first because we can't build our forecast if we don't have really good information to go off. So the data tab on the sheet, and I'll put the link in our course as well. That's the one that we're going to build. It's going to look a little overwhelming. It's actually not so bad once you get started. So the first thing we want is our revenue trends over the last 3 years. I would say 3 years at least. If you feel like 2018, if you have full information on 2018 as well, the more the better. Because part of this is also looking at the seasonality. How seasonal is our business? If sales always go up in August, they always go up in September. Some of you guys have events where hey, my town has a Oktoberfest. So I know that Oktoberfest is a crazy time. It's maybe at a different date every year between September and October, things like that. So monthly sales trend. So what you're going to do is fill this out for at least 19, 20, and 21. Now, if you just opened in 19, that's okay. Start from the month you were open. It doesn't matter. So many of you guys, I hear you talking, you're like, well, but, I can't predict my sales. How do I know? That's okay, right? We don't know. This is an imperfect assignment. We're inevitably going to be wrong at whatever we think our sales are going to be. We're not perfect. But this gives us really good information about where your business was pre-COVID, what happened in COVID, and how it has come back, right? Percentage increase that it's come back. And I can tell you, we did this with one of our clients. We set the target of 18% growth, right? 18% growth over 2019. And how we came up with that is we started this in March, and we noticed that they were 18% higher in 2021 than March of 19, which we were, kind of surprised. So we said, all right, well, let's try for April. So we started 18%. And again, they're very seasonal. They're in, northern Wisconsin. So very seasonal to summer and slow in the winter. So we tried it for April, and we were like right there. So then we said, all right, well, let's do 18% going into May. Now, again, keep in mind, they're seasonal. So it's starting to pick up, but you start looking at the 18% growth in May going, oh, there's no way, right? Like, are my predictions way off? There's no chance. We get to May, we're right there, if not a little higher. So then we go, okay, well, let's try it in June. Now they really spiked June, July. Do you know that they hit 18% still through August? We're right there. But it's funny because when you look at it, you think the sales are too high, but then the other thing that you're forgetting is chances are you raised your prices, right? So I don't really know if they're truly up 18%, but maybe 7% of that is actually they raised their price. So they have the same guests who are paying more, which would drive up their sales. So don't be afraid of what this may or may not tell us, right? Because so much has changed in your business from 2019. What we're really trying to understand is what and how much, and does that give me any indication of where I'm going? So if we look at this example, for example, my sales have not come back all the way, right? My 19 sales for June were 118,000. My 2021 sales for June were 101,000. So roughly that's 77%. So for me, I'm going to use that 77% for my prediction for August, right? And again, I might be wrong, but it's important that I put something. So I'm going to put 129,000 in August, knowing that that's 77%. And maybe I set an internal target of maybe I only want to get, I want to get to 80% or 85%, but just that target, even if I'm wrong, can help me start to focus on where I am right now. Okay, so the key in the revenue trend is we're not just looking at 2020, right? We're looking at all of the things that have happened in our revenue, in our customers in 19, 20, and 21. So again, you'll see on this data sheet, once you fill it in, it will actually do the graph for you, which is great because you can see here, compared to 2020, I'm up, but I'm not back fully from 2019. Maybe that's just my area. People haven't come back. People are working from home, whatever it is. But that tells me, okay, I have a ways to go to get to 19, but I am kind of following this seasonal trend, right? I'm in that sort of same pattern. I'm just not quite there yet. Okay. Why is setting a revenue target important? I know there's a million reasons to say it's not worth my time. I don't know what's happening week over week. There's this uncertainty. Everything's going to change. People are going to get scared of COVID. But it's so important for your team to have a target, right? And the uncertainty of them not having a target can be stressful for them as well, right? Your manager needs a target. You as the owner need a target. Even if we miss, that's okay, right? There's lots of reasons that are beyond your control that we might not get there, but having the target will help us understand how much the manager should be ordering, understand how much we should be scheduling for, when we should be scheduling. That target is the first step. So we have to have the target, even if we know that there are certain reasons why the target just might not happen, right? Okay, so cost of goods, we're going to do the same thing. So we're just going to write the total dollars as shown on your profit and loss statement. So in your financials, you're going to take your total dollars. And the only reason we would include our inventory adjustment is if it's one that actually gets booked. So if you have an inventory software that does an inventory adjustment, I would be hesitant to use it unless they actually book it in your financial system, because you want to really make sure that we're using, final dollars. And sometimes inventory systems, it's not a final dollar, but if it is, then let's use it. So we're looking at total cost of goods dollars over, 19, 20, 21, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever we can to get to our trends. So again, we know cost of goods are going to be messy. You guys have been through like at least 2, if not 3 price spikes, right? You had last spring during COVID, you had last summer during COVID again, and this summer during COVID again, right? So we know that we don't expect perfection, but what this does tell us are the trends in our cost of goods. So if you look here, the blue line is 2021, red is 2020, expect that to be messy. Messy is fine. 2019 may also have been messy. This example I did just saying we were a startup. So that might have been when we were new and we didn't really know what we were doing either. So if you look here, my cost of goods are more consistent, right? My 2021 is sort of more consistent, but I can definitely see that things are starting to have gone up, right? That my July has really gone up from March. Looking back at 2020, it's not very helpful for May or June, but then I can see when things started to smooth out in July and August, there was less of a spike. It got to be much lower than where I am right now. So significant cost of goods increase if I look at the same month of the prior year. That may be, good or bad, but we really would want to watch that, because if my August number is as high, then that tells me, this could be a 5 to 10% difference, which has a huge impact on my bottom line, which is where I need to develop my trend. What am I trending in cost of goods? Not just 1 month, but really seeing every month, because it would be easy to say, well, July is just things were spiking, but look at the trends, right? July is higher than June, but June is higher than March, which is, right in line with January, but much higher than 2020. So this is more than a 1 month thing. This is something that's happened, which is eroding my bottom line and eroding my profits and eroding how much I can earn as the owner. Okay, the most important part is where am I trending, right? If this is the cost of goods I've been running, is it realistic to go back and assume my menu can run at a 22% cost of goods, right? Probably not. I'm at 35 right now. So maybe I've changed things that I'm ordering. Maybe there's certain products on my menu, whatever it is. What I'm looking at is what am I expecting to do in August? Because that's going to be the place to start for our forecast. Now, labor, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, keep in mind for labor, with PPP, your 2020 is probably crazy, right? Because you had months where you were paying people, where you were barely open, or you had to spend it because PPP was almost over. That's okay. Again, messy is fine here. But the big thing here when you're doing this is, do you want to include your owner wages? Because again, we're really looking for this percentage so we can use it in our forecast next week. So this is your homework. But do we want to use the owner wages, or do we want to exclude owner wages? Because your percentage is going to include the wage dollars that we put here. So if you want to exclude owner wages, just make sure we don't have that in the total of the dollars. And then ultimately, same as before, we're looking at total labor as a percent of sales. So I would include your payroll taxes, anything that is payroll related. So total dollars spent on payroll divided by sales. That's the percentage. Now, there's going to be plenty of time. We could do a budget. We could do front of house, back of house. All of that is really important. But this is cash flow, right? We want to tie to the dollars that come out of your account every time that you run payroll. So total dollars for labor is what we're looking at here. So finally, now we are to the point we can put it all together. So we have all this data. We understand what has happened. We're comfortable with the percentages that we're currently running. Even though they're not perfect, we know that they're accurate, which is where we would now set up our start to our forecast. Now, again, you guys are going to do all this data this week so we can get to next week. And then together, we are going to start our forecast with this information. Because if I'm running a 35% food cost in July, unless I do a menu price increase, I would use 35% for August, right? Maybe use 34% and really try to be, as efficient as I can. But I'm not going to go back and put 28% if I know that I ran a 35% for July and August. Same with labor, right? It's not perfect. And I know that people are getting paid a lot, but I need to use that percentage. The only thing that would really adjust those 2% would be a price increase. So maybe from here, I've learned I need to do a price increase, but either way, this is where I am today. And even if I were to do a price increase, it's probably going to take, 2 weeks to a month to implement and roll it out. So for now, this is where I am. So if I have my monthly sales target, which we did first, of that 129,000, I can take my cost of goods percent, my labor percent, get to my gross profit. Again, it's not perfect. It's not what I want to see, right? Because I probably want to see 55%, but it gets me where I am. And the next step would be my operating expenses. What does it cost me in overhead and the other costs that are not cost of goods or labor? And do I have enough with these revised percentages? Because again, I don't care if you have $500,000 in the bank. This is what we care about, right? Because once you know that you are break even, that 500,000 is like, woohoo, I have 500,000. But if I'm bleeding 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month, 40,000 a month, 500,000 doesn't feel like enough, but it will feel like enough when we start to see it incrementally increase, because we are sustainable and profitable even in this crazy environment. So that's why this is so impactful, that we have to know where we are today. Now notice, this didn't take us that long, right? It took us 20 minutes to go over the slides. It's going to take you less time than you think, but it will provide such a big impact in understanding where your business is today and how you can make it even better going forward. Okay, so feeling lost. If you feel lost, please reach out to us, right? If you are a Largo client, it is completely free. Just send me an email, get on my calendar, set up a link, and we will build this for you, right? This is important. We will get you set up to where all we have to do is update it periodically. If you are not a Largo client, but you want to get on the phone, happy to help. There's a fee, obviously, because it takes a lot of time to build, and I wouldn't have all of your information like I would if you're a Largo client, but happy to do it. It's worth it. I cannot tell you how impactful it is to have a clear picture of where your business is right now, because there's so much noise and there's so much going on, but having that clear picture can, like I said, give you peace of mind over your cash, which is the most important thing as a business owner. So please feel free to reach out. Again, this will be on demand to watch anytime. Next week, we will be building our forecast together and tying it back to our cash, the cash we have today, the cash we expect next month, the cash we expect at the end of the year, so that we are ready to go for whatever is thrown at us between now and 2022. So anyway, thank you so much for joining today, and I look forward to seeing you on our call next week.